1959 was not just another year, it was a moment of transformation, a quiet revolution in the palm of every American hand. For 50 years, the humble penny had carried the image of to wheat stocks, a tribute to agriculture, to labor, to the roots of a growing nation. But in 1959, everything changed. This was the year the United States Mint unveiled a new design, a bold tribute to Abraham Lincoln, not just the man, but the legacy. The Lincoln Memorial now stood proudly on the reverse side of the coin, replacing the wheat ears with marble columns and silent dignity. It marked the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and with it came a new era of symbolism and pride. The obverse remained unchanged. Lincoln's profile still faced right, sculpted by Victor David Brenner, a design first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. But the reverse now told a different story. Designed by Frank Gasparo, it showed the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a place where history echoes through stone and silence, where Lincoln's statue watches over a nation still wrestling with his ideals. This coin was more than copper, it was a message, a reminder that freedom and unity are built not just in fields but in monuments, in memory, in the hearts of people who believe in justice and equality. Minted in Philadelphia and Denver, over 1.8 billion coins were produced in 1959 alone, yet despite its massive circulation, the coin holds a special place in collectors' hearts, especially in pristine condition. Red, uncirculated specimens from Philadelphia can fetch over $10, while deep cameo proofs can surpass $80, and rare error coins with doubled dies or misstrikes have reached thousands. But value is not just in dollars, it's in the story, in the transition from wheat to stone, from labor to legacy, from past to promise. This coin witnessed the civil rights movement, the space raised a rise of television, and the echo of Lincoln's words in every courtroom and classroom. It was held by children buying candy, by workers cashing paychecks, by dreamers saving for something better. And today, when you hold a 1959 penny, you hold the first of its kind, the beginning of a new chapter in American coinage, a bridge between generations, a symbol of change. 1974. America, a nation on the edge of transformation. The echoes of Vietnam still linger. The Watergate scandal brews in the shadows, and inflation rattles the economy. But in the heart of this storm, a tiny copper coin quietly carries the weight of history. The 1-cent piece, the Lincoln penny. This was no ordinary year for the humble penny. Copper prices were soaring, threatening the very metal that gave the coin its soul. The US Mint faced a dilemma: how to preserve the penny without bankrupting its production. So they dared to dream of change. They struck over 1.5 million experimental pennies, not in copper but in aluminum, a silvery ghost of the coin we knew, lightweight, futuristic, and controversial. These aluminum cents were never meant for circulation, they were prototypes, whispers of a new era. But the vending machine industry cried foul. Aluminum confused, censors threatened profits, and Congress backed down. The aluminum penny was buried before it could breathe. But some escaped into the wild, legends say. A few were gifted to congressmen, others vanished into private collections. One surfaced in 2014, its value estimated between $250,000 and $2 million before the government reclaimed it like a relic of forbidden innovation. Meanwhile, the bronze penny lived on, struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, over 8 billion minted that year, each bearing the solemn face of Abraham Lincoln, each a survivor of economic uncertainty and political hesitation. And yet, even among billions, some shine brighter. The 1,974 seconds proof penny, with its mirror finished, a rare 1974D with mint errors, the no mint mark. Philadelphia strike in pristine condition, worth hundreds, even thousands to collectors today. But this coin is more than metal, it is memory, it is resistance against change, it is the story of a nation trying to balance tradition and progress. In the palm of your hand lies a chapter of American history, a coin that almost became aluminum, a symbol of what could have been. In 1888, America was changing. Railroads stretched across the land, factories roared, and the echoes of the Civil War still lingered in hearts and homes. Amid this transformation, a small copper coin was born. The Indian head sent Lady Liberty wore a native headdress, not to mimic but to honor the spirit of a nation still defining itself. designed by James B. Longacre. This coin was more than currency, it was a symbol of unity and contradiction. Struck in Philadelphia, from 95% copper it weighed just 3.11 grams but carried the weight of history. No mint mark, no fanfare, just the words United States of America and the year 1888. It passed through the hands of farmers, soldiers, immigrants, and dreamers, each leaving behind a silent fingerprint. Some coins were lost in fields, some buried in trunks, others kept as tokens of love or luck. Today collectors see more than metal, they see a mirror of a restless young nation, a coin that witnessed the rise of industry, the struggle for identity, and the quiet resilience of everyday people. If you hold one, you hold a piece of American soul forged in copper and memory.
They called it just a penny, but it marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in American coinage. The year was 1959. The United States was changing fast. The Cold War was heating up Alaska, and Hawaii had just become states, and the nation was looking inward to redefine its identity. And in the middle of all this came a tiny copper coin that carried the weight of history. For 50 years, the Lincoln cent had shown 2 wheat stalks on its back, a symbol of growth of agriculture, of the American dream rooted in soil. But in 1959, the reverse design changed forever. Out went the wheat, in came the Lincoln Memorial, a monument of stone replacing a symbol of grain. This was no ordinary redesign, it was a statement. The Lincoln Memorial was chosen to honor the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, not just as a president, but as a unifier, as a symbol of freedom and dignity. The man who ended slavery now stood immortalized, not only in marble, but in metal. The obverse still bore his profile, designed by Victor David Brenner since 1909, but the reverse now showed the Grand Memorial in Washington, D.C., with tiny details so precise that if you looked closely, you could even see the statue of Lincoln inside. This was the first time a coin showed a building that contained the same person as the coin itself. A coin within a coin, a tribute within a tribute. Over 1.5 billion of these pennies were minted in 1959, alone from Philadelphia and Denver. But despite the massive numbers, most of them were spent, worn, forgotten. Only a few survived in pristine condition, and those today are worth far more than 1 cent. Collectors search for the red uncirculated versions, the deep cameo proofs, the rare errors like doubled dies and off-center strikes. Some of these coins have sold for thousands of dollars because they represent not just money but memory. The 1959 penny is more than copper and zinc. It is a mirror of a nation in transition. From rural roots to urban monuments, from wheat fields to marble halls. It is the story of America told in 1 inch of metal. And when you hold it in your hand, you hold a piece of that story, a story of change, of legacy, of Lincoln. So next time you see a 1959 penny, don't just see a coin. See a chapter of history pressed into copper. See the end of the wheat and the rise of the memorial. See the soul of a nation etched in silence. 1943, America was at war. World War II. Every bullet, every tank, every radio wire needed copper. But copper was running out. So the U.S. Mint made a bold decision. They replaced copper with steel and coated it with zinc. That's how the 1943 steel penny was born. A coin unlike any other. Cold to the touch, magnetic, silver in color. It looked like a dime, but it was worth just 1 cent. This coin carried the face of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of unity in a divided world. But behind his calm gaze lay the chaos of a global war. Factories roared, families waited, soldiers marched. And this tiny coin became part of that story. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, billions were made. But they rusted quickly. Vending machines rejected them. People confused them with dimes, and the public complained. So in 1944, copper returned. Steel pennies were no more. But the story didn't end there. A few rare pennies were struck by mistake. On copper planchets, these 1943 copper pennies are now worth thousands, even millions. Collectors call them the holy grail of American coins. So when you hold a 1943 steel penny, you're not just holding metal, you're holding history. A moment when America bent its economy, its industry, its very currency, to fight for freedom. This coin is not just rare, it's resilient. It's a survivor. Just like the people who lived through that war. just like the families who sacrificed, just like the soldiers who never came home. The 1943 steel penny, a coin of war, a coin of hope, a coin that reminds us, even in the darkest times, nations adapt, people endure, and history is written 1 cent at a time. 1943, a year when the world was at war, and even the smallest things, like a 1-cent coin, were reshaped by history. This is not just a penny. This is a wartime whisper, a steel heartbeat, pressed into metal when copper was too precious, too vital for bullets, for wires, for victory. The United States Mint faced a crisis. Copper was running dry, so they turned to steel, coated it with zinc, and gave birth to a coin that looked like silver, but carried the weight of sacrifice. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, these coins were magnetic, lighter than their copper cousins, and often mistaken for dimes. They jammed vending machines, rusted at the edges, and confused the public, but they were never meant to last. They were meant to serve, to survive, to remind every American that even a penny could be part of the war effort. Some rare 1943 pennies were accidentally struck in copper. Those are legends now, worth thousands, even millions, because they were mistakes, beautiful mistakes. Born in chaos, the steel penny was retired in 1944 as salvaged brass shell casings returned copper to the mint, but the legacy remained. Today, holding a 1943 steel penny is like holding a piece of World War II, a tiny relic of resilience, of innovation, of a nation under pressure, finding strength in steel. So next time you see one, don't just see a coin. See the story. See the struggle. See the soul of 1943.